Now, if you're a glass half empty Villa fan, you could say 1 point out of a possible last 15, no goals for in 2 games, 2 goals for and 9 allowed over that stretch. But if you're a glass half full Villa fan, you might say, hey, that's a clean sheet and a point on the road, something that's been hard to come by this season. No matter whether you're glass half full or empty, today in that glass, it's Glen Roth's bourbon casked whiskey. It's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. Where am I on that scale? Glass half full, glass half empty? You'll have to watch and find out as we review Leicester 0, Aston Villa 0. Hello from the colonies and welcome inside the Parlour. Aston Villa and Leicester's first 0-0 draw of the entire season, which seems quite remarkable to me. In fact, that was Villa's first away draw this season. And I do want to bring a little bit of context to this match because Leicester played a very taxing game at Goodison in the midweek prior, and now they're preparing for the Europa Conference League semi-final against Jose Mourinho's Roma this coming week. So was this a big priority match for them? Probably not. Did they rotate the squad quite a bit? Yes, they did. And that may be why, when I show you the stats here in just a second, Villa did have the bulk and the better quality of scoring chances. Let's get busy with the Holy Trinity, the 3 big issues or moments that defined Leicester 0, Villa 0, starting with the key statistics. 7 times this season, Leicester has had the bulk of possession in matches. They haven't won any of them. 5 losses, 2 draws, make it 5 losses and 3 draws now. Villa had the better and more quality chances, higher XG, 11 shots, only 3 on target, a couple of those of the tame long-distance variety. They won more of the duels in this one, and accurate passes very, very poor at 69%, but there's a very specific reason, I believe, why, which I'll share with you later. I got a very interesting question via Twitter from Madrid Villain. We really are everywhere, aren't we? Basically saying, what has Steven Gerrard brought from a managerial sense to improve the football club? Because the players he is attracting comes down more to his reputation as a player than a manager, because his managerial career is only about 4 years old. My answer to that question is, I think Steven Gerrard was brought in to be the embodiment and figurehead of a now cutthroat and ruthless football club. I mean, think about it. They fired a Villa boy in Dean Smith early in the season, a guy who did absolutely everything for them, and said that's not good enough anymore. And it's a 180-degree departure since then. They have global ambitions. They want to buy an MLS club. They want to knock down the North Stand, add seats, improve the hospitality experience, increase ticket prices. They have ambition, and they needed somebody at the helm who was a cutthroat individual, which Steven Gerrard was as a player. And it's funny because I have a very good friend who's a big Rangers fan, and he says, man, the script there is playing out exactly as it did at Ibrox, including calling out players in the media saying things like, well, there's going to be changes, or people just don't believe in what we're doing, that kind of thing. And even though Steven Gerrard himself is not saying I'm going to make huge changes in the summer, pretty much everybody else in the football world is saying that, and we are linked with so many players right now. And some of the names that we've been linked to are other ruthless individuals. Luis Suarez, for example. Listen, I'm all for business expansion, ambition, even global aspirations. But what if you can't land those kinds of individuals this summer, or you have to overspend to get them? Because if you can't bring them in, aren't you going to have to rely on some of the very players that you might have undermined or challenged or questioned about their ruthlessness and mindset over these past few months? Now, I fully agree with and subscribe to this idea of surrounding your high potential youth, of which Villa seems to have an abundance of, with winners and warriors. The problem with winners and warriors, though, is that they are very expensive, usually older, and every other team wants them. Sure, you may be able to go into the bottom half of the Premier League table and poach away a Calvin Phillips or an Yves Bissouma, for example, but that's going to be extremely expensive, and it puts an awful lot of pressure on Johan Lange, or does it? I mean, does it not somehow feel like Steven Gerrard has more power than, say, Dean Smith did? And if that relationship between head of recruitment and manager is not harmonious, you're going to have problems. Johan Lange also, to me, seemed like somebody who loved to do his business in stealth mode. Get it done early, efficiently, without the fanfare, and get a good, fair price. It worries me a little bit that so many people are saying it's a big summer coming up for Villa. In fact, it's the third straight year we've heard it's a big summer coming up for Villa. Significant issue. Big Tim's introduction. Tim Iroegbunam, who is a unit and who can move, and at first impression, seems to be in the right place at the right time a lot. In my stats, 3 recoveries in just 15 minutes alone. And the problem is we already kind of have 2 6s, Douglas Luiz and Marvelous Nakamba, and we are linked to every single high-profile number 6 under the sun and in the market right now. So where does he fit in? In my opinion, Steven Gerrard is getting him a taste of the Premier League, but he will follow in the footsteps of Cameron Archer and Jadon Philogene-Bidace and play in the Championship, which is exactly what should happen to him next summer as an 18-year-old turning 19 in June. I cannot believe some of the stuff I'm reading on Twitter. People already have him inked in as our starter next year. We gotta chill out on the kid, seriously. Issue of significance, Tyrone Mings managed to avoid getting booked in this match and therefore gets his good behavior reset and won't have to miss 2 games in the very near future. His statistics were also very good. 5 clearances, 4 recoveries, 1 interception, and he won every single one of his aerial duels. I counted 4. The stats on some sites said 5. That's a good performance. But it's in the opposite penalty area where, once again, and I've brought this up numerous times this season already, that Tyrone Mings had some glorious chances to put Villa on the score sheet, and he failed awkwardly on all 3 of them. The best, most elite goal scorers in the world all have one thing in common. They always expect the ball will land at their feet or their head, and they prepare their feet and heads accordingly. Tyrone Mings is the exact opposite, because every single ball that is directed to his 6'5" frame always seems like it's some kind of surprise to him. He had a 0.18 XG all by himself in this game, and yet 3 times in this game, he just looked clumsy and caught off guard. You have to believe that the coaching staff is spending hours with him on this very issue, because if Villa really and honestly want to progress, they need both their center backs to provide more. Mings has 1 goal all season, and that was from the floor, the 2-0 goal at home to Brighton. And that's it. And they need more. Big issue or moment number 3. You could say the ship was stabilized because it was listing to one side heavily, and now it's balanced out again. And yes, it wasn't the best Leicester team, and no, Villa couldn't do the first double over the Foxes since 2004, but it's a clean sheet and it's a point away from home, something that Villa has not done yet this season, draw away from home. I found that quite remarkable. And Steven Gerrard said afterwards, if we did that a little bit more this season, a performance like that, we'd be in a better situation table-wise, which is a little bit ironic, because isn't it he who instructs fullbacks and midfielders to bomb forward in away games like at West Ham or Brentford or Wolves? This was a far more pragmatic performance from Villa, and he's right. They needed to do this more away from Villa Park this season. I referenced the fullbacks. Matt Cash ventured forward far less often than in other games we've seen this season, and same with Ashley Young. He wasn't adventurous at all, at least not as much as Luca Dean might have been in games gone by. Even Jacob Ramsey released far less often. It felt like he was given the green light, particularly in the second half, but John McGinn was shackled to 20 yards from goal and no more. Now, this is very pragmatic, and it's exactly how you get results. And quite frankly, it's a lot less stressful for players and, I dare say, fans too. Number 2, stop the press. Come on, that's clever. And it was really noticeable today how effective Leicester's front squeeze was. Was it Leicester? Was it that simple down to a very effective press? Or was it Aston Villa being sloppy on the pass, or they didn't have the available outballs? Because Tyrone Mings had a 63% passing accuracy. That is terrible for a center back, and Ezri Konsa was only at 69. Emi Martinez was at 35%. 8 of 25 attempted passes were completed. His long balls were 5 of 20. 25%. That's terrible, and that's why Villa was so outpossessed in this game. But again, it comes down to three things. Was the front press effective from Leicester? Yeah, it was. Was the passing great? Not really. And were the outballs available? And no, they weren't either. So that's something that Villa has to work on over the next coming months, because I think a lot of teams will look at that and go, here's the ticket on how to get to Aston Villa. Press them really hard. And the number one big issue or moment that defined Leicester 0, Villa 0 was selection surprises. 2 weeks ago, I speculated that there was no way Ezri Konsa could start this Leicester game, given that he actually had a hand in all 4 of Tottenham's goals. Callum Chambers had a good run in those wins and scored a worldie at Leeds. So here's where you actually have to give some credit to the manager. He showed faith in a young player, and that young player rewarded him by keeping a clean sheet, or at least helping to, even though there was a very dodgy moment in the 52nd minute when Ezri Konsa switched off. And quite frankly, he is very lucky that Villa was not punished here. However, Aston Villa needs Ezri Konsa. They need him to crack on. This is the first time in his career that he's being challenged. It's not the comfortable, you're starting no matter what, Ezri, time that he had under Dean Smith. And one way you can help a player progress is by showing faith in them, even if they've had a bad outing. But the one that raised my eyebrows and the eyebrows of many Aston Villa fans, in addition to their blood pressure, I'm sure, was the omission again of Emi Buendia. And this is a Villa team that played with a very distinct front three, not a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2, but Coutinho left, Watkins central, and Bailey right. And it's on that right-hand side that I think Emi Buendia is best suited. That's where he played with Norwich to great effect. Yes, he drifted in. And okay, maybe you give up some pace in comparison with Leon Bailey, but I just feel like Buendia provides more danger. He creates more. He's more hungry, more aggressive. I would love to see him playing with Phil Coutinho. Now, Steven Gerrard did say after that Leon Bailey was looking extremely effective in training these last 7 to 10 days. But he also had the best chance that either side had in this match in the 8th minute, and he got it woefully wrong. And it seemed like every time the ball was at his feet and he was driving forward, there was this awkwardness and lack of cohesion with the front three. He simply has to start at home against his former side, no? Because his omission, apart from 20 minutes at the end of every game, is starting to get a little awkward considering he's the club's record signing, is it not? And I could sort of understand that maybe you could say, well, he's too similar to Coutinho, even though Gerrard played with 2 10s all the time at Rangers. That's his preferred setup behind a number 9. And I could sort of see that if you're going to choose one 10 over the other, you're going to choose the guy you're paying a boatload of money to while he's on loan, trying to convince him to stay. But it was a quiet outing again for Phil Coutinho, and this is a very cautionary buyer beware type warning coming into the summer. And I just believe that if Gerrard goes back to Coutinho left, Watkins central, and then Buendia right, with Ramsey releasing occasionally and Matty Cash getting forward, I think they could cause Norwich a whole lot of problems, and we could be seeing kind of a Southampton situation on Saturday. And there weren't dramatic improvements in the categories that we've been following all season, but a couple of things did improve, including the away form, which included a 19th out of possible 51 points away from Villa Park, and Emi Martinez earned his 10th clean sheet. He's into double digits for the season. And now, Norwich at home, and we'll get some insight as to the level of respect the Canary players have for Dean Smith as he returns to his old stomping grounds for the first time. Didn't think it was going to be a big game, but it kind of is. Until then, be well, be happy, be positive, and as always, up the mighty Villa.